For my lesson, I will have my accelerated math class explain how to solve a problem with the Pythagorean theorem using Flipgrid. Okay. This will take place during my second day working with my students on the Pythagorean theorem. The goal is to have the students self-explain their thoughts to hopefully establish connections between conceptual and procedural knowledge. In terms of prior knowledge, this isn't the first time I've had the students explain their thinking through Flipgrid. Because of this, they already know how to join a Flipgrid using a join code. They also understand how to edit their work. Flipgrid has a similar feel to Snapchat, so the students generally pick up on it rather quickly. I do have a refresher video for the students so they can watch if needed. I put that in my LMC if they have any additional questions. Here's a brief look at the refresher video.
Side of your screen that relate to the assignment. Since the whole point of Flipgrid is to make video responses, you'll be making a video through your webcam, and when you're ready, you'll want to go to record a response. You'll see after you hit record a response that it's going to take you to an interface where you'll be able to record a video. You can also see here how long your teacher has given you to record this video. So in this case, you have 1.5 minutes to record your response. You can see that on the top right-hand side of the screen, as well as on these instructions.
As you can see, it walks them through some different things. It'll walk them through the editing process. It walks them through like the very basics of Flipgrid. So it should allow them to see exactly what they need to do in case they forgot something. All right, in terms of prior knowledge using Pythagorean theorem, this is the second day using the Pythagorean theorem for my students. We have a 90-minute block schedule at my school, so by the time they get to explain their work with Flipgrid, they shouldn't have many issues. The nice thing about teaching for the last 17 years is I have a plethora of material to draw from. On this page, I'm showing you the activities I decided upon for my lesson. This is my LMS Schoology. As you can see, we will begin the class with a warm-up look at game on the Pythagorean theorem. I usually allow the students to pick the game they will be playing. Once this is done, I've placed my intro screencastify there for the students to view over it if needed. Then the students will work through an interactive Pear Deck lesson on the Pythagorean theorem. Pear Deck allows me to check in real time on my students to see if they are making any errors or have any misconceptions still. Then they'll be doing using the Pythagorean theorem Google Forms. This acts as a formative for the students to see if they are understanding the concept. Once they finish that, I will check in with them to see how they are doing. Once the check-in is complete, they will begin work on their Flipgrid. The students at this point will need to begin gathering resources. They need to look at notes from the previous day, begin to solve the problem they are given, and create a script for their Flipgrid. Students learn better when they are able to self-explain. This allows them to establish connections between conceptual and procedural knowledge. For me, since the Flipgrid is a portion of my lesson, I have already looked to see what materials are available to me. I just needed to create a rubric for the students. This way, they understand what is expected of them. My goal for the Flipgrid is to not only offer the students the ability to self-explain, it also is to try and make the learning social and interactive. This tends to get a much better buy-in from the students. Once they complete their Flipgrid, I'll have them either comment on 2 other classmates' Flipgrids, or they can have the option of recording a video message to their peers. My storyboard is as follows. So I start with a screencastify. It's there to allow the students to go back over something if they need to see it or to get clarification. Then I have that video that I showed just a second ago. It's a review of how to use Flipgrid. That one is just, as I said earlier, if they have any questions or forget how to do something, they can go through that and look. Then we will discuss key points from the video as well as key points created in creating a successful Flipgrid. So they're going to go through, pick their key points, work through it. Then they have their rubric. I should have the rubric on a later page so you'll be able to see that a little better. But that way they know what is expected of them. And then it's time to create. Once we have done the above, the students will solve the problem, create a script, and present. When they are done, they will edit their work to submit. In terms of goals and objectives for the Flipgrid portion of my lesson, looking for the student's response to be detailed, explicitly referencing the text material topic, and draw connections to other texts or information on the topic. I also am looking for the student's responses to be spoken clearly and are easily understood. They are presented in a logical order and do not use slang. Then I am looking for the student's response to be detailed, explicitly referencing the material we are covering, and draw connections to other information on the topic. All right, here is the rubric I'll be using. As you can see, it goes from 5 to 1 with the different topics we're going over, or they're expected to do. Finally, in terms of gathering other information for this lesson module, I need to make sure I entered the following activities into my LMS. So I needed to make sure I put in my Pythagorean theorem booklet. I needed to make sure that my Pythagorean theorem Pear Deck was entered successfully. I also needed to make sure that the using Pythagorean theorem Google Forms was there. Those three things are all taking place before the students begin work on their Flipgrid. Once they are done, I have the students working on a Legend of Zelda Pythagorean theorem Desmos. Desmos is something my school has purchased. This one's actually real fun because it allows them to play through the Legend of Zelda, an old Nintendo game, while solving the Pythagorean theorem. So it's a good example of gamification, and it always keeps the students' interest. Here is an example of the Pythagorean theorem Flipgrid from one of my students from last year's class.
To find the length of the triangle B, you would have to plug in the lengths of the triangle into the formula, which should be 5 and 13. And then you would have to put them to their squares. So this is 169. 25. And then you would subtract 25 from each side, which would be 144. And then you would have to find the square root of each side, because that's how you get rid of the exponent, and then it would be 12. So b equals 12.
There we go. Oops. There we go. So that was just a quick example of how a student did it. There's multiple different ways on Flipgrid to go about it. This student wanted to have it all set out and just kind of talk over it. Some students chose to have their face work through the problem in front of you. I did it that way. There's a whole variety of ways to solve on Flipgrid. And then after this, the different students were able to make comments on the student's work to say how they did, if they agreed with the work, their thought process, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there we go. That is my my lesson using Flipgrid. Thank you.